This is We the People Live.
G'day humans, welcome to We the People Live, a discussion show for planet Earth. I am Josh Zepps. This week, an interesting episode. We have bumped our regularly scheduled programming this week because something happened online that I thought it would be interesting to interrogate a little bit. Between two people who have both been guests on this show, in fact, I think this show may be the only show in any format, pod or otherwise, to have had both of these men as guests. The men are Andy Kindler, the iconic comic, who was a correspondent on the Late Show with David Letterman and one of Dave's favorite comics, and Sam Harris, of course, the philosopher and neuroscientist, who many of you will also know. This came to my attention the day before yesterday, which is Tuesday. We're talking about March 21st, when Sam Harris tweeted out a request for recommendations for the best 500-seat rooms for live podcasts. Back in November, Sam and Richard Dawkins had a couple of conversations in Los Angeles on a national tour that Richard Dawkins was doing. And in that same week, I had a conversation with Richard Dawkins as part of his East Coast tour. And those were successful, and I heard Sam say afterwards that he'd like to do more of this sort of thing, of live events. Now, I will not hesitate to point out that We the People Live began in its original incarnation as conversations in bars in Brooklyn and Hollywood, so I'm glad Sam's coming around to the live event thing. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, Sam. And so this is an innocent tweet that he's put out simply asking for people for recommendations of places where he can do a live podcast. And Andy Kindler responds to the thread, parachuting in saying, 500 new atheists hanging on his every boring word. Sounds like secular heaven. Following up with, I couldn't care less what this bigot writes. He's a bore, talking about Harris. I despise bigotry. I will continue to speak out against all forms of hate. So Sam tweets out, on Tuesday, 9 p.m., why is Andy Kindler attacking me? This takes a lot of energy. And Sam links to the feed of all of Andy's tweets historically that include Sam as a tag. And there's a lot of them. And they're not nice. Andy responds, the man who said Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas likes to pretend he's not a bigot, and tags Sam. And then follows up with, this is the following day, yesterday, well actually midnight on Tuesday night, just to keep it interesting, I alternate between muting and blocking every Sam Harris sycophant. Then follows up with, sorry I didn't get a chance to block or mute every Sam Harris drone, my computer ran out of ink, the toner arrives today. That was yesterday morning that he tweeted that. And yesterday, of course, if you're listening to this later, was the tragedy in London where a terrorist ran a car into a bunch of people on Westminster Bridge and then killed a few folks, and Andy tweeted yesterday afternoon, the usual suspects are using a tragedy in London to bash an entire religion. Meanwhile, they live in a country run by a quote-unquote Christian madman. And Andy followed up with yesterday afternoon, I will continue to despise Bill Maher and Sam Harris regardless of the blowback from their bigoted supporters, but I'm muting everyone. In case you believe from this series of tweets that Andy is some unhinged loon, let me just clarify. David Letterman holds him in extremely high esteem. I grew up idolizing David Letterman and recording him every night when I was in school, when I was in elementary school and high school, when he first came on the air in Australia. And Andy was a correspondent on that show. He was a regular on that show. And I have been a huge fan of Andy's slightly edgy, weird, awkward comedy and sense of humor for quite some time. So I want to play you a little clip. This is Andy Kindler on The Late Show with David Letterman 12 years ago, January of 2005, in what turned out to be one of his great sort of life achievements, because this was the segment that went so well, his set that went so well, that Dave tapped him to become a regular correspondent on the show. It sounds a little bit dated now because what he's talking about is Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which at the time was the most important show, I guess, in the country. Forgive the fact that it's not timely, okay? That's not his fault. It's the fact that this is from a dozen years ago. But I give you here a little clip of Andy Kindler.
Everyone loves that show, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. I can't watch it for 1 second, all right? Every week it's the same thing. You know what you need, Mr. Sister? You need a new pair of shoes. Let's go to a shoe store. Look, Mr. Sister, girlfriend, boyfriend, doctor, and Mrs. Sister. It's not 1974. You're not in Paul McCartney and Wings. Let's get you a new haircut. Why do people watch the show? It's the drama, the suspense. I don't know what's going to happen on Queer Eye this week. That guy's got a unibrow. You think they'll talk about that at all? He's got cinder block bookshelves. You think that's going to come up at all? The suspense is killing me. It's like watching the movie Sleuth or a more current movie. Well, I didn't expect that. I don't buy the premise that there's any problem in life that needs to be solved by 5 gay guys. Hi, Auto Club, I'm stuck here in the Parkway. All right, we're going to send out 5 gay guys. Why do you do? That's what we do now. What seems to be the problem? I got a flat tire and I can't find my jack. No wonder you can't find your jack. Look how messy your trunk is. Do the stereotypes bother you? The stereotypes bother you? Only gay people know how to comb their hair? Only gay people know how to decorate their apartment? Would you watch Jewish Eye for the Christian guy? You send 5 Jewish guys out to your house? Let me help you put your money in the bank. I'm a Jew. I know about money.
So that is Andy Kindler. As you can tell from that clip, he does not like stereotyping people. He does certainly not like stereotyping religions, which may feed into part of his antipathy to what he regards as being the problem of Sam Harris. So I texted Andy yesterday and I emailed Sam and I said, what's going on, you guys? What is this? Do you want to talk about it? They didn't want to talk to each other about it, but Andy wanted to jump on the phone, and Sam Harris very kindly agreed to do my podcast at some point in the next few months, but didn't want to talk to Andy directly, but did send me an email to pass on to Andy. So I did. I got Andy on the phone. Please enjoy this conversation about faith, about Islam, about the boundaries of free speech and appropriate discourse on social media between myself and Andy Kindler. G'day, humans. Pardon the interruption, but I wanted to tell you that I'm not a terribly good chef. Actually, that's not true. I am a somewhat good chef, but I'm not a very good preparer. I spend a lot of time chopping bell peppers. I'm too much of a perfectionist. I don't just let the bell pepper be. What has changed my life is Blue Apron, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone because they send you exactly what you need. And it's all organic, it's high quality, that's what I like about it. It's not crap. And you get to prepare delicious meals on your own or with your family. You don't have to go out to eat, but it's just so much easier than having to prepare everything from scratch. And it's so much less wasteful because there are only 2 of us in the household, so if we buy too many groceries, then we inevitably throw things out. Upcoming meals this month include cashew chicken stir-fry with tango mandarins and jasmine rice, roasted pork with apple, walnut, and farro salad. I mean, just reading this menu, my mouth is watering. Crispy barramundi with quinoa and roasted carrot salad. It's like I'm in a fancy restaurant, innit? Not all ingredients are created equal, as I say. These ones are good ones. It's affordable, there's variety, it's easy, and it's guaranteed. Everything arrives ready to cook, or they're going to make it right to you. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/people. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. Don't wait, it's blueapron.com/people. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Andy, thanks for being on With the People.
Thank you.
Now, what's going on, buddy? I like you, I love you. I feel like, is there enough fiber in the diet? Have we run out of gin? This has been a stormy week on Twitter.
Well, it's interesting because I'll never say anything is interesting because then the next thing you say isn't. But I had like a family member contact me because she likes Sam Harris, so she couldn't understand what I was talking about. I don't know what Sam Harris does on his podcast other than the Muslim stuff. The only time I ever heard of him was through Bill Maher, and the stuff that he said about Muslims, I just think is pure bigotry. And I think Bill Maher is obviously a bigot. So it's like, to me, it's like they helped Trump get elected, even though they may be against Trump. The same arguments they use are the same arguments that Trump people use. And I just have no stomach anymore for judging. If you judge people based on their religious affiliation, that's insane to me. It's like saying, oh, you're a Jew. Do you go by the Old Testament? No. You can't make blanket generalizations about people. And I think it's just going to be like rounding up the Jews in World War II. That's what's going to happen to the Muslims unless we speak out and say no more.
So, I mean, the counterpoint to that is that part of what fueled Trump is a sense that the left is full of shit on the problem of radical Islam and refuses to talk honestly about the crisis that's taking place at the fringe of Islam. And that although you don't want to generalize about all Muslims, you can generalize about the tenets of a particular belief system, right? I mean, what do you say to the claim that you can criticize a belief system without being bigoted towards the people who hold that belief?
Well, I'm Jewish. I used to have a joke about being a self-hating Jew. How can you be a self-hating Jew? I say, spend a day at the temple where I grew up and make your own decision. It's like I criticize everything. I never thought in my entire life I'd ever be defending, organized religion. But the problem is this. We know that criticism, everything should be criticized. Every religion, every concept, every comedian, everything should be criticized. But that doesn't mean that you can use that to justify rank bigotry. And
what's the difference there? Because I think you're seeing, a 5-minute segment on HBO and you're interpreting it as rank bigotry. But given that I know Sam and that I've read all of his books and that I've listened to the majority of his podcasts, I don't see it as rank bigotry at all.
Well, I'm not just going by his, what I've seen him on, Bill Maher. I've also looked at him interact with people online. And he made an argument once that, because they always go back to this argument. Oh, I hate all religions. Don't get me wrong. We hate all religions. Meanwhile, if they were talking about Jews the way they were talking about Muslims now, you wouldn't believe the backlash that there would be, even though Trump's eventually going to head us down the same road. So it doesn't matter. It always ends up with the Jews. But, he said to somebody once, they said, well, it goes, maybe Judaism is bad too, but there's this many less Jews than there are Muslims, so there's this less of a chance that they could be dangerous. That's just nonsense. A tiny fraction of all people are crazy. This whole idea that you can go back and read, that you need a white atheist guy to interpret the Quran for you, that's what I object to. And the thing about the radical Islam, I think that's total right-wing political nonsense. There was a woman who was on Lawrence O'Donnell, and I saw a movie about her. She was a Jewish professor, and she actually got sued by a Holocaust denier, and she's kind of a hero in a way. Yet she goes on Lawrence O'Donnell with Azra, is it Azra?
Reza Aslan?
No, I love him.
Azra
Romani, yeah. To slam Obama for not saying radical Islam. And I couldn't care less if he says it. They just want to say that because they want to go back to the neocon days of 2000, when George W. Bush invaded Iraq. That's what they want to go back to. So they have to portray Obama as not being hard enough on terrorism. It's ridiculous.
Is there a space to be occupied between George W. Bush nostalgic neocons who just want war with Muslims and crazy pastors who want to burn the Quran, and the people on the left who completely deny the correlation between Islam and jihadism, or Islam and social conservatism, or Islam and female genital mutilation, or Islam and wanting to persecute people who mock the Prophet? I mean, can't we have sufficient nuance to be able to make critiques of certain ideas, like the idea of apostasy, for example, without automatically being apologists for the George W. Bush administration in 2004?
You can. I mean, you absolutely can. And here's the thing.
But not without being accused of being a bigot by Andy Kindler.
But here's the thing. What's the argument that's being made? Like, Reza Aslan knows way more. He's an actual religious scholar. I would cede to him before I would cede to a white neuroscientist atheist who obviously has an agenda, hates all religions. So he goes in hating all religions. And so he comes out hating all religions. But when you speak to Reza Aslan, he'll say like, yeah, well, some of those things on genital mutilation, those have to do with countries. Those are regions of the world. They're not necessarily just because of it being Islam. But also, it's like, I don't know enough about to make these arguments with everybody. You know, all these people online, these Sam Harris clones and all these, Trump, they just like, yell, think a woman wearing a hijab is just, it's evil and that's it. There are some women who want to wear a hijab. It's none of your business. If you're not helping by Bill Maher showing a woman clothed completely with a bag, that's not helping anything. That's just causing more xenophobia. So it's like, what is the discussion that you want to have really? The most dangerous man in the world is Donald Trump. He could blow the world up tomorrow. It's Bibi Netanyahu. That's not based on Judaism or Christianity. These are nuts. The whole argument of focusing this much on people's religion, I just don't think it doesn't help, but it's hurting a lot.
If I was convinced that your position was likelier to lead to the demise of Donald Trump, then I would support your position, Andy.
Okay.
But my fear is that if you're a low information voter, right, in, let's say, Lyon in the south of France, and you're about to vote this summer in a presidential election, and every time a truck comes barreling down the boulevard in Nice on the 14th of July and takes out some people, or every time what happened in London yesterday takes place, there is a chorus of people on the left saying this has nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a religion of peace.
That's not what they're saying, though. That's not what they're saying at all.
What are you saying?
I'll tell you exactly what they're saying. They're saying by the people who are using that term by calling it radical Islam, it's radical Islam. They're making it as if it's actually a part of the religion, when what it is it's people who are radicals and distorting the religion. It's a matter of how you talk about it. There's not one person that I know who's a fan of Al-Qaeda, who doesn't hate terrorists. You know, that's not what it is. It's about how do you fight this? Do you fight this by doing Muslim bans? Do you fight this by pointing out that the whole religion is bad? I don't even understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But Andy, the reason why you don't know people who support Sharia law and who support jihadists is because you're a Jew who lives in Los Angeles. Trust me, there are lots of people around the world who do.
But don't blame that on Muhammad. Don't blame Bibi Netanyahu.
I don't think it is
Jewish
being blamed
people.
on Muhammad. I think that like, put it this way. Do you think that if we were living during the Crusades, that Sam Harris would still be focusing on Islam and not criticizing Christianity?
Well, here's the thing. This is what bothers me more than anything. I'm not a historian. I'm not an expert on anything except what I believe in. I believe in very strongly. The point is, there's a historical basis to all of this stuff. There are people who I follow online who are interested in reforming Islam, who I understand what they're saying. But then you have these people like Tarak Fatah, who's like one of the most horrible human beings I've ever experienced in my life, who I had a screaming match with. You have this Azra Romani, who basically voted for Trump. If at the end of the day you're going to vote for Trump, you are the enemy to me. She hates Obama. She hates Obama. Why does she hate Obama so much? Don't you at some point have to wonder if the fact that this guy, I just think there's a lot of either hidden racism or something, that why do they hate him so much? I don't get it.
Listen, there probably is a lot of hidden racism among people who are intransigently opposed to Obama, and there probably is a lot of hidden bigotry among some people who claim that they're standing up for gay rights or for women's rights. Like, the Milo Yiannopoulos type of phenomenon, where the only time they ever give a shit about women's rights or about gay rights is when it's an excuse to bash Islam, because that's the conservative, homophobic, misogynistic whipping boy du jour. Which makes it more palatable to be, an ethnocentric, white nationalist, alt-right douchebag. My problem is that I think that you're making a kind of a category error by assuming that anyone who sounds like those people must be those people.
Only the specific people I can't stand. Dawkins, Sam Harris, Bill Maher, Romani, and then this guy Nawaz.
Well,
I don't even know who he is. He just comes at me the other day. I have no interest in Nawaz. I have no interest in a guy who has a blindfold over his mouth. I don't even know what that picture. What does that picture mean, Josh? Tell me what that picture means with the blindfold over his mouth.
Andy, his name is Margin, and there is a backstory to why he came at you the other night, which I will reveal to you in a moment, which I found out about yesterday. Okay, so you had tweeted.
There's a backstory about me.
There's a backstory about you, Andy. You've hit the big time, buddy.
No one's paying attention to me in the front story.
There's a backstory. So
Okay.
Here's the deal. So, I mean, Majid used to be an Islamist. He spent time in an Egyptian jail. He was a radical. He believed in jihadism. He wasn't a terrorist, but he was the real deal. And while he was in jail in Egypt for his extremism, he was coached out of it by fellow former Islamists, and he now runs the Quilliam Foundation, which is a center in the United Kingdom, which seeks to de-radicalize young Muslims. I really don't know how that mission can be regarded as being anything other than
I don't know
worthwhile.
anything about him. I didn't come at him. He came at me. I have no idea. I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
So you had tweeted back in February, about 6 weeks ago, Bill Maher and Sam Harris are two of the most brainless, ignorant, xenophobic bigots on the planet.
That's a fact.
Are vile, radical extremists.
That is a simple fact.
I'm not even going to take that bait. But then Majid...
Yes, you will.
I will in just a moment.
You disagree with the bait. You turn it down.
I do. I decline the bait right now. I'm just pushing it to the side of the meal, and we'll come back to it with an aperitif.
We don't have to come back to it.
And on Tuesday night, Majid tweets back at this tweet, which is like 6 weeks later, right?
Right.
Saying, Andy Kindler, can you stop this, please? You're not doing reforming liberal Muslims any favors with such hyperbole.
Is Bill Maher?
And then you say to him, our Constitution protects the free exercise of religion from quote-unquote reformers like you, Majid Nawaz.
I agree with, yes.
And then yesterday he responds to you saying...
That's the smell I get from Azra Romani and all these other people. That's the stench I get from them.
Yesterday he tweets back to you saying, kind sir, this is embarrassing. I bid you well.
Yeah, what is he from from old England? What is he, Sherlock Holmes?
I think he's trying to be funny.
What are these people doing? Hello, good sir. I am very sorry. I bid you farewell.
He is English. I mean, he does have that going for him.
I'm sick of the English. I'm sick of them.
Oh, God.
Hey, does the fact that I have my earpiece in, that's not going to matter, right?
No, I think it's good. No, I think that makes it better. Because
otherwise I wouldn't hear it.
Yeah, exactly. That enables us to have a conversation rather than just a monologue. Much as I know you enjoy having monologues on your own as well, Andy Kindler. Is it possible? Let me make an analogy to another system of belief. Right? Is it possible to criticize a set of ideas without criticizing the people who hold them? Look, for example, a couple of weeks ago, my friend Mike Kaplan, who is also a comic, do you know Mike?
I know Mike very well. I'm a good friend.
So he has a podcast. He invites he's a friend of the show, as we say, and I'm a friend of his.
Business.
And I go on his show because he wants to put me up against a Marxist friend of his, me playing the role of the confused liberal Democrat who believes in social democracy, and his friend playing the role of the person who thinks that I'm completely corrupt and part of the problem, and that Marxism is the solution. Now, I disagree with Marxism as a holistic way of thinking about the world and about economics. I think people who have convinced other people to believe in Marxism have caused untold damage when it actually gets implemented. I can admire the history of Marxism. I can admire the audacity of Marx. But I really believe it's a set of bad ideas, and I don't judge the guy for holding them. I don't think that he's a bad person for holding them. And the same is true with a lot of not only belief systems, but also practices like male circumcision, which I think is stupid, but I don't think that doctors are evil in the United States for doing it. Or poor people working in a slaughterhouse, which I think is part of a system that is evil, but I don't blame them for doing it. Or children of the Westboro Baptist Church, who I think are totally indoctrinated and are part of the problem, but I don't actually blame them for doing it. It is conceivable that there are a set of ideas, and I take your point that there are crazy people in every religion, right? And I also take your point that the mere belief in Islam alone is not sufficient to turn someone into a socially conservative Islamist, nor certainly into a jihadist.
Right.
But there are a set of ideas that can be problematic that we have to be able to talk about the problem of believing in them, such as punishing people for leaving a faith, or consistently denigrating women, or consistently being homophobic, that when applied across large populations are deleterious to the project of human civilization. Can I at least say that without being a bigot?
You could say anything you could say anything you want, but this is not what they're doing. These people are.
But it is when you actually read their books instead of watching 4 minutes of them on HBO.
No, I've watched Bill Maher forever. See, this is also not you, but this enrages me because I know everything Bill Maher has said for 25 years. You can't catch me on these things. He is a bigot. It's not, and this idea where you go, I hate your belief system, but I like like you. That is nonsense. He hates religious people. He mocks them. What do you want the religious person to do? Oh, okay. Tell me I'm a stupid idiot for being a Christian, but that I'm okay as a person. I don't care. Save your
Andy,
your
that's
love
what all
for
of
me.
us non-religious people do all the time. I get told that I'm a faggot
They're
who's going to hell.
horrible, too.
Who's going to
They're
hell. And I'm like,
horrible, too.
you know what? If you just let me marry a dude, then I don't actually care whether or not you judge me. Like, love, hate the sin, love the sinner, whatever the fuck you need
I
to
was
do.
in
Let's all
San
just get along.
Diego, and I saw churches marching for gay rights. Are those not real? Are they not real, those churches marching for gay rights?
That's
Because I was walking right next to them. So there are people who are fundamentalists in every religion and who are fundamentalist atheists. Bill Maher is a fundamentalist atheist.
The problem,
He's as bad
the
as
problem
anybody
is, Andy,
else.
that fundamentalist atheists are not blowing anybody up and not driving across Westminster Bridge,
They're helping
ramming
get
their
Trump
cars
elected.
into people.
They're helping get Trump elected. They're
Well,
helping people
I'm not sure that's true.
People get wearing hijabs get yelled at on the street. They're helping increase prejudice.
Well, I don't think so. So I reached out to Sam yesterday because he and I know each other a bit. I told him, I invited him to talk to you, and he politely declined. He sent me an email. Let me read you. Do you want to hear Sam's
Sure.
Sam's feedback?
By the way, I have no desire to ever talk to him, but so go ahead.
Okay, so
I
it's
like
mutual.
talking to you. I like
It's
talking to you,
mutual.
though.
Okay,
Now,
good. I love talking to you.
how horribly unreasonable do I sound? Because I know that my voice is getting loud.
Well, but your voice always sounds loud, even when you're doing a subdued set at the Comedy Cell. You have never not been loud. We will find out how unreasonable you sound on the basis of feedback, I guess.
Of the editing. I know how you
I'm
do
going
it,
to chop.
Josh.
Oh yeah, I'm going to chop it up. You're going to sound fucking awful, Andy.
Dr. Z and the
my
splice
magic
machine.
my magic audio machine. So this is Sam Harris emailing me yesterday because, as I say, we know each other a little bit. I don't know Andy Kindler, he writes, and I don't think our paths have ever crossed, but he keeps appearing in my Twitter feed. A search of his own timeline reveals that he's been defaming me as a racist and a bigot in painstaking, retail, and utterly obsessive way for years. Of course, he also attacks and then immediately blocks anyone who rises to my defense. Needless to say, Andy has no evidence that I'm a bigot, other than that which he hallucinates on the basis of his own political correctness or moral confusion on the topic of Islam. He seems to believe that only a bigot would criticize this great religion, or worry more about it than about Anglicanism, Mormonism, or Buddhism. As I type these words, they're still picking up the bodies of the innocent people who were mowed down in London by persons as yet unidentified.
And there weren't people mowed down by all types of people,
Andy,
by crazy Christian fundamentalists.
We have to give Sam the right.
What is his point?
Give Sam the right to reply, and then
He's
you
also
can
saying
respond
he's
to him.
defaming.
Okay?
I'm so tired. I'll tell you one thing, Josh. This idea that he threatens. He's defaming me. Sue me, Sam Harris. Sue me. You're
Andy,
a racist. I don't know if you're a racist, but you're a bigot. Sue me. That's
Andy,
my opinion of you.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible, Andy, that people who already think Sam Harris is a bigot will find that argument utterly scintillating. But people who don't already find Sam Harris a bigot are unlikely to find such a
I don't
rant
care.
convincing.
I'm not going on Twitter to establish. That's what I hate about Twitter. People go, "Could you please supply your evidence of?" I'm not here to have a debate with you. I've heard the guy talk. Everything he's saying in this email is total. It makes me think that he's actually a bad guy.
Can I finish giving him a hearing, and then you can respond. You could just scream the word bigot at the top of your lungs for the next 35 minutes. So
back to you, Josh, in the studio.
He refers to the London attack and says, "I'll wager a fair amount of money that the murderer wasn't Amish." Kindler has a lot of company on the extreme left, as you know. The irony is that while he thinks he's coming to the aid of beleaguered brown people, he's doing nothing but give cover to theocrats and religious maniacs throughout the Muslim world who make life so oppressive and dangerous for women, gays, freethinkers, aspiring scientists, and anyone else who doesn't want to live in the Middle Ages. A further irony is that when I responded to Kindler's latest tirade on Twitter last night, and here, Andy, this is Josh talking, is the reveal about the backstory of Majid Nawaz's tweet. Back to Sam. I was on my way to dinner with 5 Muslim reformers, Majid Nawaz and friends.
Reformers!
So,
okay,
control
the good
yourself,
Muslims,
Andy.
the good reformers, who Sam Harris has decided that are good people because they're reformers. They're willing to do what's necessary to change the religion to make white atheist Sam Harris happy. Edit that with a sound effect, please.
What kind of sound effect do you want on that?
Like doing.
Okay, all right. So within minutes, this is Sam talking, so within minutes of his defaming me as a racist and a bigot, I was literally sitting at a table full of Muslims. One was even black, Andy.
I don't remember
Hang on,
calling
Andy.
him a racist.
Let me finish the word.
Okay, but I have no memory of calling him a racist. I use the word bigot because he seems to be prejudiced against people because of religion. That's
okay, so he says, so within minutes of his defaming me as a racist and a bigot, I was literally sitting at a table full of Muslims, and he adds as a parenthetical, one was even black, Andy, who were laughing about his attacks on me. Margit even tweeted at him. There's the backstory of the tweet. How will Kindler interpret this? Sam asks. Let me guess. Look, the racist is saying some of my best friends are black. I honestly don't think it's possible to reach someone like Kindler. These are the people who've turned the internet into a cesspool of defamatory lies. So thanks for the invitation to appear on your podcast, Josh, but while I have high hopes for the power of conversation, I'm not a masochist. And any conversation between Kindler and me would first have to start with an apology. Calling someone a racist, again, I can't verify
I don't remember
that you
calling
have,
him a racist.
maybe,
I call him a bigot.
Okay,
I don't
calling
even
someone
call-
a
I don't
racist
call
in an
Bill Maher
attempt to
racist.
silence him is
He's
a
not- I don't
deeply
see-
unethical thing to do. It's also dangerous, and there's no question that the lies that people like Kindler continue to tell about me have raised my security concerns. Feel free to read this email on the podcast. It'll be interesting to hear how Kindler convinces himself that he's done nothing wrong and that I'm still the bad guy. You know I'm not a bigot, Josh, but I doubt you'll be able to persuade Kindler otherwise. However, I encourage you and all your listeners to imagine what a ridiculous figure Andy would have cut at my dinner last night, surrounded by courageous Muslim reformers who treat me like a brother. What wisdom could he have offered when the conversation turned to the subject of how they can best secure their offices in London against a Charlie Hebdo-style attack? Imagine him playing the bigot card then. Kindler's supposed to be a comic, isn't he? Well, at least he would have gotten a laugh.
Okay, can I make a response?
You can.
Dear Sam, you ready? Take this down.
Yeah,
Dear
I'm ready.
Sam, blow me.
Okay, that's good.
Blow me. Dear
That's
Sam,
good.
blow me. Seriously.
Yep.
Seriously,
Do you want to
blow
supplement that
me.
with reason, or are we going to stick with the blow me defense?
No. I'll go. I don't care about that. I just want to say it. I'm not claiming it's my best rhetorical flourish.
Okay.
Dear Sam, blow me. Stop threatening people. All the time you threaten people by claiming they're defaming you. I know what my opinion is of you. I've listened to you speak. I've read what you've said. You are a bigot. So if you want to sue me in court, go and sue me in court. But stop threatening people. Can't you just accept that people hate what you do and think that what you're doing sucks? That you have to bring it out that you're the aggrieved party and you have to claim defamation? That's nonsense. First of all, I don't even remember calling you a racist because I'm very careful to say that you're a bigot. So is that better? I think you're a bigot. But all you do online is threaten people, defamatory. Can't you just be a man and give your opinion and stop threatening people back? It's disgusting. Love, Andy.
Andy, here's a thought experiment, or just a challenge. If people
I'm not Einstein. We're not Einstein.
If people brought up Sam's Twitter feed, and they brought up your Twitter feed, and you just had to ask someone who didn't know either of you and had no history of this relationship, who was the one doing the attacking?
I am attacking him. Yes, I'm attacking him.
Why are you attacking him for attacking other people? All he's doing is trying to say his beliefs.
Because I'm a comedian, Josh. I'm a passionate comedian.
That's what I want to get to here, Andy. Because
I'm a passionate comedian who gives his opinion in very strong ways. Why do I have to sound like Sam Harris and bore people to death?
Here's what I'm trying to figure out as I look at this sort of stuff. Yeah. Is that, to what extent is this a kind of an Andy Kaufman sort of like act?
No,
like,
not at all.
Do you
Do
you relish being a troll? Because I don't believe you are too smart and too funny to believe all of the things that you
see, but Josh,
tweet.
I can't believe this. You're actually calling me a troll, but that's not true. You just disagree with what I'm saying. That doesn't make me a troll. If I could take 7 or 10 or 12 things that you've said in this speech, in this talk with me, that sound like very, very strong statements. That doesn't make you a troll. I'm no troll. I do not want the Muslims to get rounded up like the Jews were rounded up. I've been warning against this for years. And what happened? We elected a dictator, Nazi, Trump, and Muslims could get rounded up. So I couldn't care less that Sam Harris is having a lovely dinner with his 5 Muslim reformers. I have no interest in what he's doing. I don't care about him. I'll speak out about him when I want to. I'll speak about him when I don't want to. I'm not looking to win a popularity contest with him. Hopefully people will see my comedy and know that I'm funny or know me as a person and know that I'm a good person. But just because I sound passionate doesn't mean that I'm unreasonable. It's not wrong to hate prejudice. It's not wrong.
In the bigger battle here, the bigger
Sure.
kind of intellectual battle that we're sort of faced at, I feel like we're all standing on a bit of a precipice, not just in the United States, but also in the UK because of Brexit and because of the rise of nationalism. Certainly in France, where it's entirely possible that this summer they will elect Marine Le Pen of the National Front, an openly nationalistic, racist, anti-EU party. I'll get blowback for calling them racist, but I think that's defensible. And also in Australia, where One Nation, which is the Nationalist Party, is polling better than it has in about 20 years. And I feel like we just have to... I mean, part of the mission of this podcast, it's not dissimilar to the mission of Sam's podcast, ironically, which is to try to find ways of having conversations with people with whom we disagree in a way that bridges the conversational chasm. And
I don't think that's possible. I don't.
Have you just given up on that mission?
I don't
you
like
just,
it.
You just think that's naive?
That letter that he sent to me enrages me, and I've never been enraged before, so it's a new feeling for me. No, it enrages me. I don't like him. I don't like anything about him. I don't like people who threaten constantly, which he does all the time, that he's threatening that he's going to sue you, or he's telling you you're defaming him.
I haven't heard him threaten that he's going to sue you.
He just said I'm defaming him. Who uses the word defamation if they don't mean it's a legal word? It's not a word that says he's saying not nice things.
He is a very precise legalistic person. If he ends up slapping a suit on you, then I'll be with you, Andy, in criticizing him. But I don't think he's going to do that.
I will represent myself.
But I'm
in
more
court.
interested, Andy, in what you think the purpose of like social media and conversations are, because this is. I'm worried that we're just hunkering down into warring trenches where
Right.
it becomes a First World war of attrition. And if that's what happens, if it's simply people saying anyone who raises criticisms of things in the world that they perceive to be going wrong
no
is
one's saying
necessarily
that.
on the
I've
wrong
never
side.
said that. I have never said that. But you know what's happening? There's a Muslim ban. There's a Muslim ban right now. This guy is going to be a dictator.
Well, it depends
in
what
our
you're
country.
talking about. Are you talking about the electronics ban that was introduced this week, or are you talking about the
No, I'm talking
temporary
about
ban
that
on
the Muslim ban he would like to do if
immigration?
he could. He would like to round up
Who, Trump?
Muslims. Trump. He'd like to round up Muslims. I'm interested in stopping him. I've heard these arguments for years, these neocon arguments. This is what's gotten us in the problem to begin with. You don't think it helps ISIS and all these groups that of the stuff that Trump says? The hateful stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
listen, Andy, Sam went to the mat against Trump for months and months and months. I mean, I don't want this to sound like I'm just carrying water for Sam. He can come on the podcast and he can defend himself if he wants to. Not that you would talk to him or he would talk to you. But I do have to just find a reasonable middle ground here, which is that it is. I have to emphasize that it is possible to say a lot of things that a lot of Muslims believe as a result of their theology are bullshit, and also to be anti-Trump, and also to be a reasonable person who loves Muslims, who loves the Muslim call to prayer, who appreciates Muslim architecture and Muslim art, as I do. But I can't be on board with saying that any time that someone criticizes a dumb bunch of beliefs, I'm not saying that that's particular to Islam, that could be Marxism or whatever else it is, that means that person's a bigot. It doesn't.
It doesn't. But you understand something. One thing you need to understand. My whole life, I did nothing but speak out against organized religion. I didn't want to come to this part that I'm at now. This part that I'm at now, I've never seen more disgusting people in my life than the people who follow Sam Harris and they're different, but the people who follow Sam Harris and Trump and Dawkins, this hideous guy who's like, I can't even think of his name. He's like, you probably would know his name. God something or other.
Gad Sad?
No, it's like a god. He was actually banned off of Twitter once. But these people are so hateful. My mother is a Quaker. There's no more. My mother was Jewish. She became a Quaker. There's no more loving person on the planet than Quakers. Do you know how many horrible things people have said about the Quaker religion online? What is the point of it? It's so terrible. What's the point? They are just whipping up people. They're not whipping up people in a subtle way to go, oh, well, I don't like this part of the Quran. I like that. But they're whipping people up to just say, this is the worst religion of all time, and this needs to be stopped. And that's what they did with the Jews. It's exactly what happened with the Jews.
It depends who the they is here, Andy. I mean, this is. I feel like you're.
Well, I'm not
you're
saying
making
Sam.
I feel
saying
like
Sam's
you're making a scattershot argument and innocent bystander.
No,
you're doing a
you're not gonna
drive-by,
round up Jews.
and innocent bystanders are getting hit. Innocent bystanders like Sam and me are getting hit in your drive-by.
I don't want
everyone
you to.
who's
Well, that's
critical
not
of Islam.
true. I can argue that you're an innocent bystander because you have these opinions, but we're arguing about them. But I think that it is upsetting a little bit that you think that I'm an unreasonable person. I will say this though, I have my own problems. My problems with online social networking are not good. I have allowed my entire life to be run by these social networking things. So it's not healthy. I'm not going to disagree with you that it's unhealthy. That I have some unhealthy, and I'm dealing with that in my own life. I'm trying to deal with these unhealthy feelings.
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like, why am I arguing with people? What's the point? I mean, what's the point of it? Sometimes it's funny, but most of the time it's not funny. So what's the point of it? I don't care. It's not because I'm allowing them to get under my skin. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing, but when the thing happened with Leslie Jones, I felt so terrible because I've been on the exact side of that, where they sense a vulnerability. Like, this guy got me to talk about, well, what do you mean by spirituality? So I talk about it. He goes, I think you're more dangerous than a fundamentalist Christian. And so it's like, I let it get under my skin. I let it enrage me. So, I don't want to be online arguing with every single robot in the world. And so I think, but that's a separate issue from this issue of whether of what I'm arguing about with people like Sam Harris. I used to like Bill Maher. I didn't wake up in the morning, the first day of life, to hate him, but I hate what he's become, and I think it's dangerous. I just think it's dangerous because I think they whip up hate in general.
You ever thought about leaving Twitter?
I can't. Here's the thing: I can't leave Twitter unless they if they threw me out. That'd be one thing, but I can't leave Twitter because I enjoy. It would. I would need to eliminate everything, including the phone, email, everything, because my who keeps buzzing me? Is that you?
I don't know. No, that's you. I'm not sure. Oh. Yeah, I'm texting you on the side. No, that's not me.
I hope that's not going to be heard, though, is it?
Yeah, that's all right. It's not terribly loud.
What was I saying?
You were saying you can't quit Twitter because...
Oh, yeah. Because I would need to quit phone, email. I have 500 texts. I didn't realize till recently that I had, this obsessive compulsive disorder. It's unbelievable. I knew I had it, but I didn't realize that it had affected me so much. So I need to, I could quit Twitter, but it would be better for me to just learn to be an adult and figure it out that way. You know, I first of all, I have never had a fight in my life. I'm scared about getting beaten up. When I went after Anthony Cumia of Opie and Anthony, they sent me concentration camp photos. I know how this thing works. I know that people are trying to intimidate me. I intimidate people because I yell with my mouth, and I'm very careful on Twitter to not say anything physical because I don't want it ever. I can't. I'm not gonna. You could punch me in the face and I would run. So the point is, I don't like getting up in the morning and being scared about what someone's saying about me. But these people, I don't feel that way about you. I love talking to you, but I don't care about Sam Harris.
But Andy, you're an empathic guy, and you're, I know, a fundamentally decent guy. But
let's not go too far.
If Book of Mormon was called Book of Islam, and I'm not the first to make this analogy, Trey Parker and Matt Stone would be being hunted and would have 24 hours.
I'll tell you right now why
security.
That's the worst.
Let me just finish the thought here. When Sam Harris was on my podcast, and if people want to hear you on my podcast, they can go back to episode 68. If they want to hear Sam Harris, they can go back to, I think it was episode 51 or 52, thereabouts. My podcast began as people getting together in a bar in bars in Brooklyn or in Hollywood and having conversations with live with people. Sam can't do that because Sam needs security. Sam has to pay for security all his life because he spends his time thinking big philosophical, ideological, theological thoughts and making arguments that transgress boundaries that actually put his life in danger. So, you might be afraid of getting punched by some crazy Sam Harris fan, which is something that he would definitely not encourage anyone to do. In fact,
I don't think of his fans as punchers.
He's a guy who has to learn martial arts and have a gun and pay for security.
I do know martial arts. That's the only thing I do know, and I'm still frightened to death.
You must appreciate that it's that there is an imbalance of personal danger when it comes to which side of the Islam debate you are on.
Okay, this is absolutely true. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but let me tell you something. This argument, makes me so angry. This argument. Do you know, you can both believe that there should never ever be violence done to people on the basis of a cartoon strip. It's not just unacceptable, it's despicable. Innocent people getting killed ever is the worst. But this whole thing that people think that some of these people, like in the guy in Dutchland, the one guy, Van Gogh who got killed, these people, a lot of times they're trying to provoke people. If you're in France,
but Andy,
or you're
if people believe that every time you speak out against a faith that is an act of provocation, then you end up creating a society in which nobody can say anything that's against the prophet.
If you live in a country where you're marginalized, like people in France are, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in France too. There's a lot of marginalization and ghettoization of people who came there. The most recent people came there. It's not because they're Muslim. It's because of their most recent person. And then you're going to show their prophet with his balls hanging out. And then you're going to say not only that the people can't say that no violence should come to them, but someone like Sam Harris says, he points to polls where people just say they hate it. They hate that that's happening.
I think he points to polls that show that majorities of Muslims in, for example, the UK think that people who draw pictures of the prophet should be imprisoned.
Yeah, but most of the people in the United States thought that Saddam Hussein was behind 9/11. This country elected a Nazi. So these polls are ridiculous. The point I'm saying is to not understand what it's like to be an Islamic person who is picked on, not by art. Some of it's art, but some of it's just like, I'm going to make this guy feel bad. And because we're artists, we can't relate to that side. We're just like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Again, I'm not comparing. Nobody should be killed for being a cartoonist. But would you like to live in a ghetto in France? Would you like to live in a ghetto in some of these countries? France could become anti-Semitic very, very quickly. I just think there's no empathy for people in their positions and what they're going through.
I mean, the people who I have the most empathy for are the Muslims who are getting picked on by the most frequent oppressor of Muslims, which is other Muslims, which is people who are trying to speak out against the orthodoxy and they're not getting any help.
The right-wing guy in Canada who shot up people didn't bother you?
Well, of course. But I mean, you're treating the Muslim world as if it's a free landscape of pleasure and plenty, where people are free to choose their beliefs. In the majority of Muslims are not able to freely leave their religion. They're not able to be self-expressed if they're women or if they're gays. So I mean, if you actually want to defend Muslims, then you should be defending individual, independent thinking Muslims, like, for example, Majid Nawaz.
I don't know anything about him.
Against
I'm not
Orthodox.
Interested. I could look at,
but I know you got to go. I don't want to keep you, and I don't want you to wait for your next appointment.
This was really stimulating.
Very stimulating. Let me say, if you are at all interested, the one thing that I would read of Sam's is Letter to a Christian Nation, which I think was his second book. It's very short, and it's a criticism of Christianity, which you probably wouldn't like, but at least it will round out your view, and I think perhaps give you a sense that he's not actually bigoted towards Muslims. He may be bigoted towards religion, if that makes any sense, in which case I'm bigoted towards religion because I'm bigoted towards bullshit. But I don't think that's bigotry.
Do you think my mother is my mother bullshit for being a Quaker?
I think she believes in bullshit.
See, I have to tell you, Josh, you couldn't be more wrong. And
but I mean, my grandmother does, and I love my grandmother.
I'm not saying it's personally insulting, but Quakers helped change slavery. You don't even have to believe in God to be a Quaker.
But people who believe in bullshit can do really good things.
They don't believe in bullshit.
Oh, well, if she doesn't believe in supernatural beings and she doesn't believe in the divinity of Jesus,
why do you think everybody who's a Quaker believes in supernatural beings? They're some of the most doubting people in the world. This is what enrages me, though, is people criticize things they don't know, and I get angry at it. You go to a Quaker meeting house and then tell me at the end of it that they're bullshit.
Andy, the subset of religious people in the world who don't believe in supernatural beings and who don't believe that they're in contact with the creator of the universe and who don't believe that there was anything divine that happened in the past, like, they're not our concern. They're not even Sam's concern. They're not my concern. They're not Richard Dawkins' concern.
Richard Dawkins, these people are terrible. Richard Dawkins is just, he's a terrible. All we need is another British colonialist guy, imperialist guy, with his xenophobic nonsense. I'm telling you, Hitchens, I hated his guts. He was in favor of the first Iraq War. I can't stand these people. Now, I don't know anything about Majid Nawaz, and I do have to go, but I will take that under advisement.
Andy, you're a very funny guy. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. I hope I haven't angered you.
God bless, as we say.
I hope I haven't angered you. And
No, you haven't. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your stepping up and actually trying to give voice to what seemed online to be inchoate rage. I think I understand you a bit more now.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. All right. Thanks,
Okay,
Andy.
man. Thanks
Later.
so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.